Welcome to another video. This is Rob J from Solo Harmonics with a video on Gothic Folklore, the third and final video of the series on folklore music. All right, where do I start? First of all, let me get my list up and we're going to continue on from there. Okay, now, Gothic Folklore is all about mythology. Okay, I got my great book here on world mythology. This book here contains everything you can think of about mythology. Every culture all around the world. Everything from ancient Egypt to the Far East and everything in between. I mean, there's everything about gods and goddesses in here, about pharaohs, and the list goes on and on. Angels, you name it. It's just some of the great illustrations with the pictures. The reading is great. I read the whole book just about. I still got to finish the Far East and its folklore. But like myths of Egypt and West Asia, it's a fantastic book. And right here is Inanna Ishtar. If you remember, I made a video and mentioned her several times. And she also is known as Lilith. I'll get to that a little bit later on. But that is World Mythology, a fantastic book. Next on the list of books is none other than the Grimm's Fairy Tales by the Brothers Grimm. In here is loaded with all kinds of fairy tales. I haven't had a chance to read a whole lot of this book, and I'm not very familiar with all the Grimm's Fairy Tales, but it's a great collection, good collector's item right here, hardcover, Grimm's Fairy Tales. Okay. Now, Gothic folklore is all about cathedrals, castles, gargoyles, old cemeteries, the Celtic cross, for example, stone angels, old manor houses and properties, dark Celtic folklore, paganism, the supernatural, of course, and paranormal phenomena. One of my hobbies, besides music and culture and folklore, is the study of paranormal phenomena. I was really heavy into that. And I watch a lot of those TV shows like Ghost Hunters and Paranormal State and Kindred Spirits. I love all that stuff. I watch it whenever I get a chance. Ancient Aliens. So I'm into all that stuff, science fiction. So today we're going to focus on Gothic folklore, obviously. Today's band that we're going to feature is a band called Inkubus Sukkubus. They're from, I believe it's somewhere in England's Gloucestershire. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. Gloucestershire? Yeah, something. I believe that's where they're from, somewhere around in that area. So Inkubus Sukkubus, they have a lot of material. They've been around since the mid to late 90s. I didn't really get into them. I first discovered Inkubus Succubus when I was studying paranormal phenomena, specifically incubi succubi phenomena, and I'll get to that in just a minute. I want to check my camera just to make sure we are in good shape here. Okay. So anyway, Inkubus Succubus, they're more of a local band from England, and they do a lot of live shows in that area locally. They don't really go around the whole world too much. I'm not sure if they've ever been in the United States. But anyway, I have several CDs from Inkubus Succubus, and the very first one I ever got from that band, or obtained, is the correct word, right, is called Wild. And it's interesting because it's basically an album on, well, the subject matter of paganism and witchcraft. I know it's a controversial subject matter for some people, but it is what it is. They also have a greatest hits album, Witches and Vampires. It's really good. It's got a little bit of everything from their earlier time and earlier works. Heartbeat of the Earth, Belladonna and Aconite, Lord of the Flame, and Catherine, and so on. They also did a album that's kind of based on more or less South American culture, kind of related to, say, Santeria and the mixture of Santeria and Catholicism. Viva Muerte, which is pretty much about death and rebirth and so on. So that's Viva Muerte. And Vampire Erotica is another one. And these are three of my favorites here. Belladon and Aconite. Belladon and Aconite is actually a sort of witch's brew that has, supposedly from what I read about it, hallucinogenic properties. Another album of theirs I really like is Queen of Heaven and Queen of Hell, which is basically Inanna versus the opposite of Inanna. And it's one of my favorite albums, really good. And here's a good one here, interesting one called Lilith Rising. Lilith Rising. It just they just released it a couple years back. I special ordered it. But what's great about this album is I had it signed by the lead singer Candia and the guitar player Tony. So that's a great collector's item right there. And by Inkubus Sukkubus. Anyway, they're just one of my favorite bands of all time. So I'm going to check my time and see where we are. Okay. All right. So getting ready to close this video out. What are incubi and succubi? An incubus and a succubus is responsible for your erotic dreams. That's right. And one of the interesting books that I have is called The Book of Lilith. And it pretty much tells the tale of her and her mystery. In Jewish folklore, she was known as somewhat of a demon character, but in pagan folklore, she's somewhat of a dark goddess. So that's the Book of Lilith, based on the character Lilith. All right, so here's my book on paranormal experiences. It's a very good book. I've read a lot of it. Very interesting. Some great movies that cover Gothic folklore are The Ninth Gate with Johnny Depp. It's basically about a book dealer who has to investigate a satanic type of book that has 3 copies that a billionaire is trying to obtain and do a ritual with, but Johnny Depp has to stop him from doing it and desecrating the book. It's a very good movie with this mysterious girl that shows up, and she's in and out, and nobody knows what she's all about, really. There's a very erotic scene at the very end of the movie. Very good. And then The Woman in Black with Daniel Radcliffe, also from Harry Potter. And Harry Potter has some interesting Gothic imagery as well. The Woman in Black, it's a story about an old manor, an old British or English manor that is haunted by a woman in black because of a tragedy that happened many years ago. So that's Gothic folklore for you, ladies and gentlemen. And my ending statement, I'd like to say this. Although we live in a high-tech and modern times, I believe it is most important to revisit the past, primarily to gain an understanding of our ancestry and history. Much information, ignorance, and prejudice surrounds alternative practices and ancient cultures. I personally and strongly believe, as for anyone's spiritual path and beliefs, first and foremost, it is for the individual to choose. This is Solo Harmonics. I'm out of time. Thank you for listening and watching, and stay tuned for more projects in the future. As usual, all I need is time. Ha 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 ha!